Scotland's First Minister is preparing to head to his first party conference as SNP leader this weekend in the most difficult of personal circumstances. His wife's parents are caught up in the conflict in Gaza after travelling to visit a relative there last week. This morning, his mother-in-law, Elizabeth, issued this emotional plea for help.
1 million people, no food, no water, and still they're bombing them as they leave. Where are we going to put them? But my thought is, all these people in the hospital cannot be evacuated. Where's humanity? Where's people's hearts in the world to let this happen in this day and age? And may God help us.
Well, Humza Yousaf has told Channel 4 News the UK government must step up its response and says he's angry the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, hasn't been in contact with him directly. He sat down with our Scotland correspondent, Catherine Sampson, to discuss the many political and personal challenges he faces in the days ahead.
I'll be honest, I'm maybe First Minister of Scotland, but in this situation I feel powerless. I can raise my voice, I can tell the story, but beyond that I'm watching my mother-in-law and father-in-law suffer, and anybody knows with any human being that your first instinct is to protect your family as best you possibly can. And we feel helpless.
How are your girls?
Our 4-year-old doesn't quite understand what's happening. We explained it to her that there's, Granny's a bit scared of the thunder and she keeps asking to speak to her granny. And this morning, it was tough because she asked if her granny would be back for Halloween because my mother-in-law does the face painting for the costumes. And although we said to my 4-year-old, yeah, granny will be back, in my heart of hearts, I cannot tell you whether my mother-in-law will be back or not. And that's tough for me and incredibly distressing for my wife.
What response do you think the international community should be having to this?
The international community really has to step up. And the UK government is in a very trusted position. It's a close ally of the government of Israel. And of course, it has to express and should express sympathy and condolences and solidarity in terms of the response to those atrocious terror attacks that took place last Saturday. But it should also use its trusted position to say unequivocally that collective punishment is wrong. It's wrong internationally, it's wrong morally. That innocent men, women and children are the ones who suffer and have to pay a price for the actions of Hamas. That can't continue.
Have you personally been in touch with James Cleverly?
He's not responded to my letter or not contacted me directly, which I have to say I have some anger about, not because of just my personal situation, but I've also asked for information about how many Scots he knows of that might be trapped in Gaza in a similar situation, and how many Scots might be in Israel who are needing to come or wanting to come back.
Of course you are First Minister.
Indeed.
Your party conference is coming up this weekend. You've been First Minister for almost 200 days now. During that time, there's been a slump in support for the SNP. You were hammered by Labour in the Rutherglen by-election last week. There's the ongoing police investigation. There's dissent over the Scottish Greens role in your government. And just yesterday, the SNP MP for East Kilbride defected to the pro-union Conservative Party. You were Nicola Sturgeon's continuity candidate. Do you ever think, she really dropped me in this?
Look, there's been a lot of factors, as you've rightly described actually, that have been out of my control. My job as First Minister and party leader is one that I cherish every day. Of course it's challenging.
Were these factors out of your control? Didn't you say the buck stopped with you in terms of Rutherglen?
For example, out of my control.
What about ditching the relationship with the Greens, Scottish Green Party?
Well, I think that's a positive for us. I genuinely believe that's a positive for us. Why? Because of course it gives us stability in government.
Slump
We're actually
in the polls?
able to get...
Is that due to your popularity?
Well, I've got no doubt that there's a number of factors, and I've got to make sure that people believe that I'm the First Minister that can deliver for them.
A year ago, Nicola Sturgeon was aiming for an independence vote to happen the 19th of October 2023, next Thursday. When realistically do you think you could deliver another vote?
So I don't have a date that I can pluck out the sky, and I think that's part of the message.
Do you have a time frame though? I mean, during the leadership campaign you said independence is realistic within 5 years.
Independence can be achieved as soon as possible. There's no magical mechanism, to be frank. And that's where we have to be upfront with the political party, with the public, and say what we've got to do is if Westminster continues, in my opinion, unjustifiably, to continue to deny the Scottish people their voice, we've got to create the political conditions. You do that by increasing support, by making sure that we have a consistent majority.
Now, the SNP doesn't have a reputation for ousting its leaders, but is that something that worries you in the wake of Rutherglen?
No, it doesn't worry me at all, because I know that the party, although it has its differences, although it has sometimes its disagreements, our party is united by the cause of advancing independence.
Will you be the leader who takes the SNP into the next general election?
Not just the general election, into the next Holyrood election too.
First Minister, thank you for talking to us. Politics continues as usual, but of course thoughts to your family too.
That's very kind, thank you.